where have you gone, Joe Louis? A lonely boxing nation turns its eyes to you.
All 4 heavyweight title belts belong to fighters born and raised in former Soviet republics. So if the heavyweight division is dying in America, it is alive and well in Eastern Europe.
In an attempt to piss off a large proportion of my own audience, half of which are American, I've decided to make a video exploring the rise of Britain's heavyweights and the subsequent regression of America's. I know this might be a sensitive topic, so I'm going to start off by saying one of the most offensive things I can, and that way, nothing else in this video will seem that bad to American viewers. I'm just gonna say it.
My God, Lord have mercy, I mean, Lord!
The battles of Saratoga were a complete fluke. George Washington and his army weren't good, we were just Plus the French Navy had to bail you out, leading to them bankrupting themselves. Well done. Also, Popeyes is overrated.
I'm like, what did he say fuck me for?
The last 10 years has basically been a golden era for British big men in the boxing ring. Although the success has been dampened by psychotic Ukrainian
I'm Phil. I'm very Phil.
and a sizable Mexican American, the fact that in May 2021 the Bible of Boxing, Ring Magazine, had Tyson Fury ranked at number 1, Anthony Joshua at number 2 and Dillian Whyte at number 4, behind America's Deontay Wilder, is still noteworthy. With the UK's population being equivalent to 0.84% of the total world population, that ranking represents a monumental achievement. Additionally, Joe Joyce currently sits at the 7th place BoxRec ranking, despite fighting in slow motion against Zhang, while Daniel Dubois has risen to BoxRec's 4th place. Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clark appear to be decent fighters, and Moses Italma is touted as a serious prospect, therefore the future seems fairly bright. And yet, although many Brits from my generation have become accustomed to packing out stadiums to witness heavyweight world title fights, this trend would have been entirely alien to many in the past. Heavyweight world title fights just rarely happened within these shores. In fact, for many decades throughout the 20th century, American journalists and promoters described those who boxed north of 200 pounds and hailed from the UK as horizontal heavyweights. They were basically insinuating that the British fighters were fat.
Oh, the irony! It's too much!
But maybe they had a point, with there being an overwhelming belief that British heavies lacked resilience and strength. Examining lists of the best heavyweights of the 1990s, American domination is almost an understatement, with many deeming 7 of the top 10 to be from that nation. Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe, Evander Holyfield, Oliver McCall, Tommy Morrison, George Foreman all held heavyweight titles at one point or another. Britain could only really point to Lennox Lewis as its star representative, and even he grew up in Canada, coming through the amateur ranks there before returning to the island once becoming professional, perhaps a dubious inclusion. The beginning of the 2000s didn't appear too bad for the American heavyweights, with fighters like Chris Bird, John Ruiz, Hasim Rahman, Roy Jones Jr. and Layman Brewster securing various belts. Yet, Shannon Briggs' loss to Sultan Ibragimov on June 2, 2007 sparked a barren 8 years for the nation. Just like in the Prohibition, the victory champagne dried up quick, with no heavyweight champions for 8 years. Deontay Wilder breathed some much needed life into the American effort, holding the WBC title from 2015 to 2020. But aside from that, the situation has been bleak, with Charles Martin holding the IBF title for just 85 days, while Andy Ruiz failed to defend his newly acquired belts in the Joshua rematch. But surely a country of America's size can muster up a further heavyweight world title charge in years to come. Cloister actually made a great video on this, which I'll link down below, but essentially the picture is not optimistic. America's greatest hope, Jared Anderson, just suffered his first loss to Martin Bakole a few weeks ago. Losses can happen in boxing on the way to the top, but he just looked like he was unable to cope with his opponent's size and power. It's also common knowledge that he regards boxing as a job, and frequently seems distracted from becoming champion. but I still wouldn't write him off just yet, as he's evidently skilled and only 24. Now, Michael Hunter's name has done the rounds, but at 36, time may be running out for him. Jermaine Franklin could be an outside contender, though he did lose to both Joshua and White. Jarrell Miller is decent, but he just loves experimenting too much. Richard Torres Jr. won silver at the 2020 Olympics, and I was impressed by his head movement and ability to cut the distance. But despite quickly securing a 10-0 record, I feel he might struggle to cope with taller, heavier opponents. Basically, there's a ton of uncertainty and no clear standout. With America essentially being the home of professional boxing, it's just all a bit sad really. But now I need your guys' help. I want to get to the bottom of why the decline has happened. I'll give my take, but please give your own opinion in the comments. The common consensus is that other sports have grown in the US at the expense of boxing. Ultimately, if you're a well-built 6'2" plus athletic person, then either the NFL scouts or NBA scouts are likely to come calling. With the $2.8 million salary being the average amongst NFL players, and NBA contracts being even more lucrative, sitting around the $8.3 million mark, it's a more stable way to become rich without having your teeth knocked out to the same degree.
My big thing was football and basketball.
It does seem like many of the top athletic prospects make it into other sports, whilst those who now opt to box are often those rejected from them, using fighting as a backup plan. I've heard of American football and basketball collegiate scholarships, but never boxing. Consequently, there's probably a ton of individuals in explosive, fast-twitch, muscle-based sports who would make strong boxers, but why take the path which sees a higher risk of CTE, the possibility of being ripped off by promoters, and involvement in an often shady, corrupt endeavour? Now let's compare this to Britain. Now, I'd argue that Britain has nowhere near the same number of heavyweight-sized individual athletes as the US, but crucially, there aren't the same opportunities and outlets for these larger athletes. Football primarily favours agility, speed and skill over raw power and explosiveness. Boxing heavyweights are perhaps tailor-made for rugby, but the sport is predominantly played by those in the middle and upper classes. Boxers, however, usually come from poorer backgrounds, making it more difficult to get into, so that avenue isn't always openly available. British basketball is effectively non-existent, and heavyweight size isn't really valued in sports like tennis or cricket. To make a fortune, football or boxing probably represent the most feasible options. The UFC is a looming issue, but in America, I do think its influence as a detractor from boxing can be overstated a little. Many of the great American UFC heavyweight champions have come from collegiate wrestling backgrounds, like Cain Velasquez and Randy Couture, with only Stipe Miocic having an actual boxing background. John Jones may have developed into a strong heavyweight boxer, but his speciality is his ability to deploy grappling with striking, so it's hard to accurately predict. One thing is for sure though, the rise of the sport has hurt boxing's popularity to a degree in the US, probably reducing the talent pool to draw from. Conversely, in the UK, MMA is growing in popularity, especially with the success of Tom Aspinall and Leon Edwards, but the lack of wrestling culture does put many off from attempting to make it to the UFC, in my view. I did make a full video on this topic, link is down below. An issue which doesn't solely impact the heavyweight category is the decline in America's amateur boxing system. This has been reinforced by the increasingly poor medal tallies at recent Olympics, with only 1 bronze medal in Paris compared to 3 silvers and a bronze at Tokyo in 2021. The British system has not been excelling as of late, but it achieved the second highest medal tally in Tokyo, and the investment from the National Lottery probably puts it on slightly better standing. We've seen it time and again that amateur experience is important for the vast majority of fighters looking for championships. From some brief research, it does seem like there's been a decline in boxing gyms also. Ibis World postulates that the boxing gyms and clubs industry in the US has declined 7.6% per year on average between 2018 and 2023. Now to me, this does seem like quite a dramatic decline, but if true, then it explains the drastically reduced opportunities for the bigger guys to get into boxing in the first place. This fall has probably been increased by the explosion of BJJ focused clubs around many areas in the US. From my experience in the UK, BJJ has certainly gained popularity, but there's still a pretty widespread view that rolling around on a sweaty mat with an individual is a strange idea of fun. However, boxing gyms are still a constant throughout society. There's obviously a myriad of factors leading to America's decline and Britain's improvement in the category, and I've attempted to cover the main ones. Reading through forums, I've come across some pretty wild theories. One Reddit user attributed it to the prison industrial complex, meaning America's large angry men are being taken off the streets not by boxing gyms, but by corporations looking for cheap labour. I mean, this is just way above my pay grade. Some have also claimed that the high gym fees in the US has dissuaded participation, but I get charged an arm and a leg for my gym, so welcome to the club, I guess. The bottom line is that, as of 2021, 6.7 million Americans participate in boxing in some form or another, while 648,000 Brits participate in the sport. There's still a massive pool of potential talent, but could there be an overwhelming focus on the smaller weight categories? Has the lack of boxing training in schools hurt the sport? Or is it just that bigger guys quickly get siphoned off into other sports such as the NBA and NFL? Please let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. More videos coming soon. Cheers.